Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you how to baste a quilt. Now, if you're wondering how to get this done so easily, I'm going to share with you how I do mine. Now, I make about 2 quilts a week, so sometimes I know it can get a little bit of a how do I actually baste this quilt really quickly. So I'm going to share with you what you need to do, the steps you need to take to simplify the process. And a lot of people have said to me, but how do you baste yours? So I'm going to share with you how I actually do mine. Okay, now the first thing you're going to need is some basting spray. And so those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, baste a quilt, well, what usually happens is once you make a quilt, i.e. you make your quilt up, you've done all the beautiful hard work and you've actually pieced your patchwork together to make this beautiful artistic quilt top. That's what it's called. But now you need to add layers to that quilt top in order to turn it into a quilt. One of the layers you're going to add is some batting. Now, there are various kinds out there, and some quilters will say to you, I use this one, I use that one. So for example, there is cotton batting, there's bamboo batting, there's a mixture of polyester and cotton, there's polyester alone. It doesn't really matter. The process is the same. Now, there are 2 techniques that I use in particular to baste. Now, I don't use one, which is the pin baste, and that will require you to pin all 3 layers. What 3 layers are you talking about? Well, the 3 layers I'm talking about is your quilt top, your batting, and your backing. Now, you must have something to the behind of the quilt, to the back of the quilt. You get what I'm saying. All right, so to the back of the quilt, most people will tend to put something in the sense of probably a print that they don't particularly like, or a big print or a small print, or something that's a little bit old-fashioned. It doesn't really matter. It is entirely down to you. Me personally, I tend to use backing fabric that tends to complement the tone of the front of the quilt top. So that's what I tend to do. All right, so that's the whole idea of basting. So it simply means that layering all those 3 layers of fabric, which is what they are, together. All right, so that it makes a quilt. Now, moving on, when you become really confident with your quilting, some quilters tend to add a little bit of a thicker loft, meaning they add probably 2 or 3 layers of batting in there to make the quilt a little bit more thicker. Now, ideally, when you use your batting, right, it may look like this. It may look a little bit thin. Yes, it does add a little bit of warmth, because a quilt is something that you admire, it's beautiful, and obviously it's kind of cozy, so you could put it over your bed to make something look really pretty. You use it on your sofa as a throw, or you wrap it around you. Either way, it doesn't matter. But some quilters tend to want to have a little bit more loft, and so they may add 2 layers or 3 layers. It just means that it's going to be a little bit more texture when you actually start to do the quilting, but nevertheless the basting process is the same. So to baste our quilt, to have our quilt actually bounded together, I use birch quilting spray. I am not sponsored, I am just telling you what I actually use. Now, I buy this from my local quilt store. Any sort of spray glue will work. The reason why this one is so much more easier to work with is that it doesn't leave a residue. Whereas if you do use a spray, a sort of a craft spray base, it does tend to use a residue. And I know what I'm saying because I have used it. And so that it becomes a bit of a particular technique to actually use that spray so that it doesn't leave a sort of a glue stain residue on your quilt top and on your batting. All right, well, I should say your backing. Right, so you need this. Now, I find that the spray basting is a lot more easier. That's my personal preference. I feel that once I have put the first layer on top, and I always start with the quilt top to the batting, that's my first step. All right, and then I usually then will spray baste the batting. I don't spray baste the quilt top. All right, I always spray baste the batting. So I do find that this works really beautifully for me, and I don't have any issues. Now, if you feel more confident using pins, by all means. I would say when I was learning, I tried out both techniques. I did the pin basting for a while, and then I also did the glue baste. Sometimes I may mix both of them together depending on the size of the quilt. Okay, but if it's a 53-inch square, 60, 75, even 100, I will still just spray baste. All right, so what I'm going to do now is take you over to my quilt top, which is already obviously made into my patchwork piece, and then I'm going to show you how I actually do it. So I'll be talking through the steps so that you're clear. By all means, if this video has bring any value to you, please consider subscribing, give me a thumbs up, and share your details down below. Let me know what you're struggling with quilting so I can actually help you. Okay, I think that's about it. Excuse me for fixing my bra. I think that's about it. So let's get started, and I can't wait to actually share with you how so super easy I actually do this, and it's really quick as well. All right, let's get started. I forgot I needed to mention something. Now, in this tutorial, you are going to see me join two battings together. So if you, for any reason, have separate battings, now when I am making a scrappy quilt, which is what this quilt is, I usually will use everything scrappy. So I'll do the backing scrappy, the batting scrappy, and of course the quilt top scrappy. So in this particular instance, I will be joining two battings together, and I will explain that in the video as well, how to do that without any stress, okay? And to use up all your batting, because we know they can be really expensive. All right, so let's get started. And as I said, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Any questions, jot it down. Just jot it down. Bye, guys. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Crafty Quilting Designs. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Karen, and today I'm just going to share with you something very briefly. Now, on many occasions, I usually make a quilt top, and I need to obviously fit the batting onto the quilt top. Now, because I usually buy my batting on a roll, I have now come to the end of the roll of my batting. And so the original piece of the batting ends here. Okay, so just enough for the length of the quilt top. However, for the width, it is not enough. As you can see, if I fold this up, this is the end here, and it's there. All right. However, the quilt top is folded in half, so it is not enough for the width of the batting. Now, this is what I usually do. Now, because I usually make quilts quite on a regular basis, I will have strip pieces of batting left. And what I would do normally is a piece such as this wide, I'll probably use it for a table runner or a bed runner, etc. Okay. Or if I want to make a smaller quilt top or a table topper, this is what I use these pieces for. But on a few occasions, I will need to join two pieces of batting together. So this is what I do to help eliminate wasting the batting, because as you know, it's quite expensive. So I will get the extra piece of batting or the cut-off piece that I have, and I will lay it against the original piece here, and I will cut it to the length that I need it to be. All right, because I know this piece, the first piece, is at the correct length for the quilt top. So the important thing here is to sew it together. But before you do that, you need to ensure that it's on the same side. So for example, I am looking at the bumpy side here and the bumpy side there, but it's not correct in the sense that it's not front sides together. So I need to turn this over. As you can see, that's the smooth side there, and as well, that's the smooth side there. So it's either I join the two smooth sides together, or I join the two rough sides together. And in case you're a new quilter, you may be wondering, well, why is there a smooth side, and what's the purpose for the bumpy side, as I like to call it? Well, the bumpy side is the side that grips it grips it on. So even if I were to move it, if you notice that it's not moving because the quilt top is gripped on there. So normally I will lay the quilt top on top of the smooth side first, and then I will put the backing on the back. So I will glue base the smooth side, and then I will put the quilt top on the smooth side and the backing on the bumpy side. So in this instance, you need to put the two bumpy sides together. So hopefully you can make that out there. So you can see all those raised, and I call it bumpy. To me, they look very pimply. So I just line them up, making sure that I've come to the correct length, and then I will cut off to the length that I need it to be. So once I've done that, the next objective now is to sew it together. And the stitch I would use, now I will tell you what not to do first. Do not, by any means, do an ordinary straight stitch. The reason why I'm saying that is because you'll have two options in order to make it flatter. You would have to open up the seam, okay, and press it, and that then will flatten your batting, because we don't really press the batting, do we? Okay. Or what you can do is to correct it, is to sew a very loose straight stitch. But then again, I don't do that. The correct measure here is to put it together flat side. So you put it together like so, and you would do a zigzag stitch. All right, so if you do a zigzag stitch, that it's flat. You don't have to do anything about opening the seams and pressing it, which ensures that when you put the whole quilt together, it's flat. All right, so let's demonstrate what that looks like. All right, guys, so we're now at the sewing machine. There's a few things we need to do before we get started. Number one, we need to change our feet, and I had on my 1/4 inch feet. You cannot do this with your 1/4 inch feet. You need to change to your zigzag. If you use your 1/4 inch feet, you will break your needle. Okay, so once you've swapped it over, my apologies, you need to then kind of pin it. The reason why I've just added a little pin there is so that it stays together nice and flat for me. I'm going to be using a sort of a brown goldish thread so that you can actually see what I'm doing. The next, but I would suggest you use a white color thread. You don't want any sort of bright colors peeping through your quilt top or behind. All right, so just use a pale color thread, light white, pink, etc. Okay, as long as it's light. The next objective is to widen your stitches. Now we're going to do a zigzag, which means our stitches needs to be wider. All right, so let me show you what that looks like on my sewing machine until you'll understand. We also need to lengthen our stitch length, and again I will show you that. So let's move over to that side. So on this side here, you can see my stitch width, and the reason or the way you can identify that is that it goes like that, yeah, up and down, giving you that zigzag look, and that's on my stitch length here. So my stitch length is 2.5, which means that's really short and tight, good for piecing, but I want it on the batting. I want when I start sewing, it moves really slowly. The objective here is not to get a tight stitch. It's not to stitch it so tight that it's like piecing. That's not the objective. It's just to put it all together so that it can lay flat enough so that you can put your quilt top on. My stitch width here is 5.0, which I've already adjusted, but I'm going to change this and add on a little bit more. I'm going to make it about 4, which is fine. Okay, the stitch width is so that when I come back to this area here, I can ensure that when the needle goes bang, 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 it's actually capturing both of them at the same time. I do not want it going right on the edge, and therefore it's missing it. So if it's really covering the coverage here on the edge properly and going zigzag, 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 that way I know it's held together. All right, and the next thing I need to do is to choose a zigzag stitch, which is up here on my sewing machine. So it tells me clearly there. Let me just adjust this for you. Can you see it up there? Right, so it tells me clearly up there my zigzag numbers, which is, and I'm going to move over here. I'm going to choose number 10. Right, so I'm just going to choose 10. Right, so it tells me there, can you see that? That's my zigzag. I can probably choose another one actually. I think I'll clear that and use, I don't like that one. Right, hold it together like so, and you need to just make sure that when you start sewing, you will see the needle moving from side to side, and just guide it through. That's it basically. Just keep guiding it through, making sure that you hold it. And that's it basically. So, and that enables it to stay nice and flat. Okay guys, so let me finish this and I'll show you what it looks like. Alright guys, so this is what it looks like. So that's it. So you can see the line there of the zigzag stitch. Alright, so, and then again, it doesn't give you that lump, because if you were to put it front sides together and sew it together like a normal seam line, you will get that thick batting and possibly could break your needle. So that's one way to avoid it. So just put it nice and flat. There's no lumps. So let me show you at the back. Same thing. All right, so it's lovely and flat there. So just I thought I'll share that with you. So now you know how to join batting together. All right, so let's continue with the basting now. All right, so let's do the basting. So the first thing you need to do is get your quilting spray out. I use Birch. Any form of quilting spray or glue-based spray will work. All right, and give it a good shake so it's nice and aerated. The next thing you need to do is to fold your batting in half, whatever side together, front side, back side, wrong side, it doesn't really matter. Okay, and what I'm going to do now is do the same thing for the quilt top. So with the quilt top, I am going to fold it wrong sides together. Okay, and all I'm simply going to do is to line it up to the both folded edges together. So I'm lining up the edge, the folded edge of the batting and the quilt top. All right, making sure to give myself a little bit of room at the top here. All right, it's important to do that because sometimes the quilt top can shift. Okay, I mean, once you glue baste it properly, you don't really have that problem of shifting. It tends to shift when you more pin. All right, so but for reference, make sure you give yourself a little bit of leeway at the top there. You don't have to go too crazy with that in terms of leaving yourself too much space. But the important things, the way how I do it, that makes it simplified for me, is adding the folded sides and the folded side together, both of them together, line up edge to edge. And the reason why I do that is because I think it's a lot more easier to measure where I need to cut. So as you can see, I've moved the quilt top down, and all I'm simply going to do is to just cut off the extra. Now I'm cutting off the extra because sometimes this can make it bulky when you start quilting. So you don't need it, it's just extra bulk. So just cut it off. And I'm gonna cut roughly the same length or the same width as at the top. All right, and just cut it away. If you're hearing a movie outside, my husband's watching. We have a cinema room there, so he's watching TV, he's watching a movie, so. All right, so that's cut off. I'm just gonna trim off this extra here as well. Again, just removing all of that so it doesn't bulk up too much underneath my sewing machine. Okay, so all I'm gonna do now is spread it open. As simple as that. So I'm going to use, I'm just going to turn it around so it's easier on this side, so it's facing the front sides to me. Let me get this out of the way. And all I'm going to do is to take one of the edge of the fold the batting, sorry, the batting and the quilt top, and just flap it out basically. Nothing scientifical, nothing smart, just that basically. So if it's folded out wide, fold the other one out wide as well, and that's it. So I have my space here, and I'm just going to make sure I have enough room on the other side, and that's all you need to do. Just double check that you have enough space on both edges, because remember, you need the edges to be in also. So roughly give yourself the same around each of the 4 edges, and just double check. And I can see I have a lot on this side, so I'm going to do that again. I'm going to come from this end. Okay, so that's basically it. So once you have done all of this, you level it off properly, then we need to start spraying. Alright, so once you're happy with where the position of the quilt top is, making sure that you have enough edges on all 4 sides, then you're good to start basting. Okay, and this is how I do this. So again, I will make sure and smoothen out the batting underneath, making sure there's no lumps anywhere, because once you've glued it like that, you're kind of stuck. Alright, I will also make sure that I know the quilt top lays lovely and flat, so that's why I'm pushing any air bubbles away, or air pockets, all right, so that it's lovely and flat. And this stage is important, all right. It's okay to move it, because once you put it on there, it's necessarily there. It's not going to lift up unless you physically move it. So I'm just smoothing it all out yet again. Okay, so once I'm happy with that, what I am going to do now is level it back, put it in the middle. And it's good that you have, if you have a table, you can do it on. All right, and I'll just give that a little flap just to make sure. I like to do that. And it sits nicely on there. So what I'm going to do now is to simply start glue basting, and I'll start with folding over. And I usually do half. So this is half of the quilt there from the edge, from the border, and I will fold it over like so. All right. And all I will do now is make sure that it's nicely mixed together, the spray, and then I spray the batting. I don't ever spray the quilt top. I always spray the batting. I find it works easier that way. I will even go to the edge where it's supposed to be as well. So right to the edge where the border is. Spray it. Make sure your room is aerated, by the way, so your windows are open. And then what you need to do now is just lift it over and just did what you did before. And this time what I do is just hold the quilt top smoothing it off. I'm not pulling it, I'm just holding it so that it's nicely smooth. There. So I'm sticking down the main area first. And as you can see, it's lovely and smooth on camera. There's no lumps or anywhere. And once I've done that and I'm happy, then I will pull it and then do the edge, do the border, because remember I've sprayed there also. Let's move up, do the ends, because I've also done here as well when I was spraying. Pull it towards me, make sure it's lovely and smooth. If I feel that I have missed any area, what I will do is go back with the spray, lift it up, spray, put it down. And you would know if you've missed any area because you would realize it's not adhering to it. Alright, if you feel you've gotten a pleat, lift it up. Now with the spray, if you wanted to lift it all up and do it again, you can. Just put it back down, push it back again, and smoothen it all out. Just make sure it's all nice and smooth before you move on. And that's it basically. So I'm going to finish up this and then I will show you how to do the other side. Alright, so once this side is done, all I will do, I can either walk around, but I wouldn't do that today because then I have to adjust the camera. So I'm just going to twist the quilt around and do the same thing. And that's it. I know where the middle of the quilt is. Alright, and then all I'm going to do is make sure it's lovely and smooth again before I start. And lift it up. I'm going to push it up a little bit more. I'm only pushing up so I don't have to be on this side to actually baste too much. So, and then I'm going to do the same thing, lift it all up to the middle, fold it over nice and neat. Okay, and then I'm going to spray. Don't go crazy, I'm just moving big spots. The edge again. On the edge again, and the edge here as well, and same thing applies. Just lift, pull towards you very gently, don't tug on it. Yeah, just nice and smooth, hold it, put it down. Don't do this stage until you know that it's flat. All right, and then just pull. And smooth out as you go. Same thing, making sure the batting is flat, and you would know if the batting is not smooth, you would feel it. Just pull it out. And be heavy-handed. You can hear me making a noise on it, so that means I'm pressing down really hard. Yeah, because your hands is doing the job for you. Once you're done with that and you're happy with it, what I tend to do sometimes is get an iron and go over it just to make sure it's more smooth as well. I know it's really lovely and smooth on there. So I'm going to move this up, get the end properly. And press it all out yet again. I can see here needs a little bit of glue, so I'm going to put that down there. I mean, it's not hard, you just need to get into a rhythm of working with it basically. Once you do it once or twice, it's easy, and having a table to work with. It's a lot more easier than going on the ground and bending over and hurting your back. So you can use your dining table, do the same thing. Just make sure your room is ventilated, that's all. Right, so that's my iron telling me it's ready. So all I'm going to do now is just take my iron and just pass it over it. That's it. That's all I'm doing. I'll drag it towards me, and you can see how nice it moves. It doesn't get mixed up, it doesn't come apart, nothing. It's on there nicely. I can maneuver everything okay. I have no problems. And the heat does actually helps with sticking it down, making the top nice and smooth yet again. So that's it. That is literally it. And all I will do is do the exact same thing for the other side. So let me just move this and show you. Look, see, nothing happens. It's still there as I put it on before. So to do the other side, I will just flip it, whatever technique you want to use for flipping it. And that's it, and continue the same process all over again. The only difference is I probably wouldn't put the iron on the back. That's it, no particular reason. Because once I smoothen it off, then I know I can continue to start my quilting now. So same process applies. You put your backing down, make sure it's measured centrally around the batting, and then you baste as normal. Alright guys, so it's the next day and I am going to do the back now. Now I didn't leave it for any particular reason, I just had other things to get on with, and so I'm going to continue today. So I have my quilt backing now, and ideally your quilt backing should be more or less the same size as the batting. Remember that the batting also needs to be bigger than the quilt top. Alright, so you can have your batting slightly bigger, which I tend to sometimes, or sometimes I have it to the same size as the batting. As long as it extends beyond the quilt top, you're good to go. Remember that movement I spoke about when I said that the quilt top can sometimes move. So that is just in case it twists, at least it doesn't twist off and you're still within an area where you can cut it and it looks straight. So I am going to put my batting on. The batting goes on front sides together, and what I have done here is to lay my quilt top with the batting on, and I've just centered it. I've just centered it on the table here. So when I put my backing on, I want to be able to make sure that it extends evenly beyond here. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. I would suggest grab a few pens. I'm just making sure that it's flapped out really nicely there. Pens, so grab a few pins, and I usually use some straight pins. It doesn't really matter. The reason I use just some ordinary straight pins is so that I can, once I have secured the top, and when I say secured, once I have lined it up properly, you can see I have extend there, and on this side, so everything looks nice and even, quite hassle-free, to be honest. I haven't pressed my quilt top. I've just used a really big sheet of fabric, and I have just simply bordered it. So I've added 2 borders. I didn't feel like, yeah, it's a scrappy quilt, so that's what I have done. So I can see it's level off here. As you can see, it's nice and level there, quite easily, isn't it? So very hassle-free. So all I'm going to do is lift the whole thing, and I'm just going to put a little pin just to ensure it doesn't shift in any way. You don't have to do this, but again, this is just a little, I'm just using straight pins, by the way, not quilting pins. And that is simply it. Now, you would do the same again for the basting, and I'm just smoothing it out, as you can see. I'm pushing all those air pockets out, just to make sure that it's lovely and smooth, as you can tell. Now, two things. One, at this stage, the background fabric, or the backing fabric, my corrections, it's not stuck to it, obviously, because I haven't used the glue. However, because batting, and I'm using a polyester and a cotton blend, it has little bumps, and I think I spoke about this earlier. It has little raised bumps on it, and that sort of grips to the backing, all right, or to the fabric. It grips to the backing fabric, hence the reason why if I lift it up, it sticks together because it's gripped there. So if you want, you can simply do as we did before, add a little bit of glue. I probably wouldn't add so much glue as I did in the first instance for the front, okay, but I will certainly add a little, just so that I know it's on there properly. So all I'm going to do, as I did before, is just flip it over, add a bit of spray. I'm going to remove my pins now because I can see it's on there nice and even. I don't have to worry about it. And I'm just going to filter it back. Just add a little bit of spray. Same technique, half of the quilt. Add the basting spray. I notice my spray is a little bit more wild now. I'm not adding too much because I know the bumpy side of the batting is going to make sure it sticks down. And pull it forward again. And again, same technique, hold it. Just hold it, pull it forward. You're just smoothing out all those air pockets. I'm going to pull to the side. Do it. Do the other side. Again, if I feel I need a little bit more glue, I can simply just lift and add. Very, very simplistic, extremely simplistic, no issues at all. And all I'm going to do now is just drag it forward up to the line, because I have a middle line here whereby I know the fabric was folded, and I'm just going to pull it back. Now ideally, if I weren't filming, I would have gone to the other side and just lift it and just spray, but I'm on this side anyway and I'm filming. So and remember, you can remove this. Another thing I tend to do is at the back here, and just do that. Okay, just because I haven't brought it right down to the end. So I just lift it like so, a little bit of glue. And I'm going to go on the other side and just lift it over gently, which is what I would do normally. Open up my arms to give myself good leverage and rest it down. As simple as that. Tug on it, just a little tug, smooth. I'll move down to this side first. Again, tug and smooth. Very, very simplistic. No sort of kneeling on the ground. You're not hurting your back. You're not hurting your knees. As I said, you can use your dining table to do this, or your kitchen counter, just do one side. If I was doing my kitchen counter, what I will do is I will get the quilt top on it, on top the batting, and I'll fold it in half and do half on one side, then flip it over and do the other side. Okay guys, I hope that has been really helpful for you. And the quilt is now ready for binding. And as I said, if I just flap it out, you can see nothing comes apart, everything is on there. It's beautiful and smooth. And I iron the front side so that it's lovely and smooth. You can iron the back, but ideally you don't really need to. It's on there really nicely and it's smooth. Okay, so that's it, literally. So if you want to see the completed quilt and tutorial how to make this, I will have the video attached probably in a day or two. You're going to get this one first, and then but I will attach it to the video, so it will come up on either one side, either that corner or that corner. So thanks for checking out this simplistic tutorial. Alright guys, so thanks for checking out this tutorial. I hope it's been helpful to you. What I forgot to mention at the top, which you've figured out by now, is that it's so easy. It really is no stress at all. So enjoy, happy quilting. Bye for now, and I'll definitely see you next week at some point. You will see the making of this beautiful quilt. So fast, so simple. Alright guys, well that's it. Bye. Have a good one guys. Love you lots. Happy quilting. Mwah, mwah, mwah.